Congratulations again on your admission to Andover, and on behalf of my colleagues who will present our program on academics and learning momentarily. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you. My name is Jim Ventre, and I'm the Assistant Head of School for Admission and Financial Aid and an Andover graduate in the class of 1979. Phillips Academy's educational program comprises academic, athletic, and community dimensions. Our program is vast and impressive and anchored in our commitment to our founding values: non-sibby, not for oneself, youth from every quarter, and knowledge with goodness. At Andover, learning is an active pursuit that takes many shapes and forms. There's no one particular pathway through our curriculum, and our academic goal is to meet students where they are and take them as far as they can go. In our learning environment, Andover is constantly moving from strength to greater strength. Above all else, we place students' well-being and excellence at the heart of all we do. Andover is known for rigorous academics and abundant extracurricular activities, but developing relationships with deeply talented faculty is the most compelling reason students choose Andover. More than the lessons, what students remember is our faculty's display of care and kindness, their commitment to their discipline, and their loyalty to our mission. We want our students to feel a sense of attachment and feel emotionally connected to Andover. While at Andover, we want students to discover their true selves, what they believe in, and what they love. Our motivation to do more and become better in our pursuit of excellence is one of our community's most admirable characteristics. Andover preserves what is best in teaching and learning and acts with the courage to change what no longer works. The faculty continue to assess and reshape the curriculum. They're developing new programs in step with students' demands in today's connected global society. Our students are the inspiration for our work and the beneficiaries of an outstanding global education. Allow me to share just a couple brief examples of what I mean. As visitors enter our newly renovated Oliver Wendell Holmes Library, they are greeted by a quote from Holmes: "A mind that is stretched by a new experience will never go back to its original dimensions." The phrase illustrates the expansive power of knowledge and reminds us that the library remains at the intellectual center of our campus. In the library, there are spaces for social interaction, collaboration, and areas for silent study. My personal favorite is a place for quiet study called the Garver Room, which feels very familiar to me, as I like to think I did some of my best work there as a student. The tables have just been refinished and have beautiful new lighting and electrical outlets for our learning devices, and while retaining that vintage appeal. The stacks and books remain in the library, but are arranged in a more efficient space. The bonus is that nearly all the library's volumes are also available digitally. The Nest Makerspace is incredibly popular. Students are building robots and making skateboards. They're working in virtual reality, designing 3D models. It's part high tech, part garage, with all the hardware, including the Legos. Our VEX robotics team has its own dedicated practice area, and our students are looking forward to another championship season. We are incredibly proud of the Oliver Wendell Holmes Library. We call it the OWL, our newest icon of 21st century education. Another area of learning centers on personal growth and development. We recognize that today's teenagers are navigating a world that commands constant attention in a society that places very few filters on what students might experience or access. To address these realities, we have strengthened our health and wellness education. Our Empathy, Balance, and Inclusion program is a research-based curriculum covering leadership, healthy relationships, personal values, and social emotional well-being, including knowing how and when to ask for help. Empathy, Balance, and Inclusion, EBI, we call it, involves 70 faculty and staff trained to deliver content specific to each grade. It is nearly impossible to do Andover well if you try to do it alone. We don't want any student to feel isolated or disconnected. As we know, social media and other heightened societal pressures can lead to unhealthy environments, and that is something of great concern to us. We will always have more work to create a healthy learning environment. Still, through our EBI curriculum, we believe we provide students with a considerable advantage in their personal development. Finally, under the leadership of our 16th head of school, Dr. Raynard Kington, and our board of trustees, led by Amy Falls, Andover's Anti-Racism Task Force will build upon our established foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The work of the task force comes at a time of extraordinary engagement in racial equity work around the country and in our community. The recommendations from the task force will emerge later this spring for implementation to improve the Andover experience for all and to create accountability for our entire community as we endeavor to identify, disrupt, and dismantle racist systems and behaviors. I will conclude with Andover's value proposition that I was reminded of the other day when we registered and COVID tested and welcomed our boarding student population. A banner was strung across the gym wall with the phrase in Latin from our school seal, finis origine pendit, the end depends upon the beginning, to send the message that foundational values remain visibly connected to our work. Our values attract bright, promising students. This admission season was the 6th year in a row that Andover had applications from all 50 states and over 90 countries. For the 1,150 students who join us each year, what does the journey mean for our students? It means our students engage with teachers and peers who challenge, respect, and enlighten them. It means our students may experience moments of discomfort as their personal beliefs are tested. It means diverse points of view are heard and they are valued. It means their individual experiences, their culture and identity enrich our community. How do we create this intentional community? The short answer is need-blind admission. This is our promise to admit students without questioning whether or not their family can afford to pay our tuition. We have been a need-blind school for 14 consecutive years. In that span, we have seen seismic shifts in terms of who we are as a community and what we can teach because of our community's strength. We stand here today, beginning to emerge from the pandemic with an even stronger student body and with our need-blind admission policy reaffirmed. Andover's pursuit of excellence is what motivates us to be better. And it is what will move us from strength to even greater strength. Thank you, and I will now turn our program over to my friend and colleague, our Director of Admission, Jill Thompson.
Thanks, Jim. I'm so excited to be here with you this evening. We've been learning about all of you for several months now, and we couldn't be more excited to introduce you to some of our most cherished faculty members. Many of our department heads, department chairs are on our Zoom this evening, and I'm really excited to introduce you to these wonderful, very talented people. So I will actually go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to kick it off with some introductions of our department chairs and our Dean of Studies and our Dean of College Counseling. And then when it loops back around to me, I'm going to start with just a few frequently asked questions that we tend to receive from admitted students at this time of year. And then we're going to go to your questions. So be thinking of your questions as my colleagues are introducing themselves. Please feel free to share any questions you have in the Q&A feature, and we will answer as many of them as we possibly can this evening. We're so glad you're here with us tonight. So to kick us off with introductions, I'm going to start with my colleague, Elizabeth Meyer. She's going to jump in and share a little bit with us about herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Meyer. I'm head of world languages here at Phillips Academy. PA teaches 8 languages: Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, French, Russian, German, and the ancient Mediterranean languages, Latin and ancient Greek. The modern languages are taught primarily in the target language. It's very important to us pedagogically. And even in Latin and ancient Greek, we do a little bit of that for fun. The language requirement is through the 3rd year of study, so that would be a 300 level or above. It's not seat time, so if a student places into a 300 level, and that student chooses to take that language, then the student will have finished the requirement after only 1 year. We don't take seat time though, so when students do if a student wants to continue studying a language that they've already been studying, they will have to place into that language through a placement test, not by the transcript from their old school. I think I'll leave it at that. And Maricela, if you have questions, please address them. But Maricela will be next, Chair of History.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ramos. Nice to meet you. I was trying to share my screen, and if I can get it up later, I'll share it with you. But generally in history, if you are a four-year student, you come in and you take 2 terms of world history in the 9th grade. And because it's 2 out of 3 terms, you get placed into any particular combination of those 2 terms. And really there we start the foundation of the skills, and we try to keep you with the same teacher. In the 2nd year, in the 10th grade, you also take 2 terms of world history, but the 2nd term is a little bit different, and it takes more of a thematic approach. So we have one that covers cities and one that covers revolutions. And generally in the 11th grade, you take a year-long US history course. And that one is where we have a really good opportunity to get to know our students much more, because we're with you the entire year, and we plan to keep you with that particular teacher the entire year. And once you've taken at least 1 term of US history, then you are eligible to sign up for our electives. And we have a variety of electives ranging from Vikings, for example. We have one on environmentalism. I teach one on gender and sexuality. Next year, we'll have a couple of them on sports and Olympics. So we have quite a variety of options for students to take particular courses that they're interested in. In the senior year, we also offer an upper level 600 level course where if you wanted to pursue an independent project, then that would be the place for you to join other students who are working on independent projects that are related to history, and you get the guidance of one particular instructor, but you also get feedback from other members of the department. All right, I will pass it on to my colleague.
Hello there. I am Keith Robinson. I am the chair of the science division, as well as the chair of the biology department. Right now, we have three main subjects in science: biology, physics, and chemistry. Most 9th graders will take biology or physics, depending on placement with the math department, and then move on to chemistry, and it really opens up after that. There's a lot of choices. We have introductory, AP level, and then sort of advanced electives and independent advanced research in all 3 of the disciplines. So we'll have students that will work their way up, become really passionate about one, and join in our independent research projects in biology or astronomy research using the telescope on the top of our science building. And basically, we have a lot of opportunities for students to explore the parts of science that excite them. So I'm going to pass it on now to Stephanie to introduce herself.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Stephanie Kirchy. I'm chair of the English department, and I'm in my dorm of 37 girls on campus. They just arrived, which is really fun. The English department, it's a very simple program. Students mostly take English all 4 years, and all 9th graders take English 100, all 10th graders take English 200, 11th graders, you guessed it, they take English 300, and seniors take electives. Uppers, 11th graders can start taking electives during their 11th grade year. But we place students by grade level, knowing that they each bring so many different kinds of skills and abilities and perspectives to the classroom. In the fall of the 9th grade year, it's pass fail. We want to give kids as long of a runway as possible to adjust to being here. And our classes are small, they're discussion based, and we bring a host of tools. We have a lot of tools in our toolbox in terms of our pedagogical approaches, and we match them to the texts and the students as we meet them. Across the board, I would say that we're very text focused. We have a really strong writing program, particularly in our 10th grade year. We're really focused. We have regular writing conferences, and we have a writing center on campus. And we have a real commitment to embedding discussion around race, class, gender, sexuality throughout all of our discussions of literature. And we teach literature from around the world. So although we're called an English department, it's just that the literature happens to be in the English language, but it's often translated from all around the world. And I will pass it on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Lisa. I'm the chair of the Math, Stats, and Computer Science Department. I also proudly coach JV baseball, JV hockey, and I'm a complimentary house counselor in a large 9th grade boys dorm. Ours is a rich curriculum in the Math, Stats, and Comp Sci department that extends from beginning algebra through multivariable calculus and beyond, as well as various courses in statistics and computer science. On the extracurricular front, our math team and computer science club meet weekly and are open to all students. And they also participate in various competitions. In fact, for the past few years, our math club has organized and led. This is student organized and led. They write the problems, they run the competition, they sign up students for middle schoolers in the area, which we're been very, very proud of. As Jim said earlier, there's a phrase you'll hear often around here is finis origine pendit. The end depends upon the beginning. And we feel that way in mathematics as well. And I know oftentimes there are lots of questions about placement. Students take a placement test. Newly admitted students take a placement test in the spring term, but that is not the only factor that plays in. There are questions, personal questions on there, as well as math questions that students are answering. We're looking at students' transcripts. In the fall, when students come to school, they get to, before classes even start, they get to meet with their advisors. They have an opportunity to talk with the department chair about placement and make adjustments if we feel that's appropriate. And then it's not unusual for some students to move up or down levels within the first few weeks. So it's not just cut and dry, this one single number that we churn out of this machine and you get placed. Like everything at Andover, it's a conversation and you're being supported by multiple adults. I think, in this case, it would be your teacher, your advisor, and hopefully the department chair. But it's important to us that, again, like Jim said, we meet students where they are, and we take them as far as they can go. He kind of stole a few of my lines there, Jim, at the beginning. So, but we feel strongly about that. A real strong foundation in mathematics is going to serve students well going forward and help them to develop that passion and that love of learning. So I'll turn it over.
Thanks, Matt. My name is Sean Logan. I'm the dean in the college counseling office at Andover. I am really blessed to work with 18 total folks in our department. We have 13 counselors. 4 folks who support our students are in sort of our front team. And we also have 1 person who is our director of testing. So we have a very comprehensive group of folks. We totaled it up a little while ago, and it's something like 210 years of experience in either college counseling or college admission. And we really, philosophically, use that knowledge. So we do a lot of work in groups and teams, although individual students are individually assigned a college counselor, they will have a lot of input from multiple people on our staff. Again, it's a comprehensive program. We typically start with very briefly with 10th graders, but the bulk of our program is with 11th and 12th graders. And I'm happy to talk more about that as we get going, but I'll pass it to my colleague and friend, Raj Mundra.
Thanks, Sean. First of all, congratulations to everybody. You've made it through a journey, and we're looking forward to the big decision that you have in front of you. And it's an honor to sort of share a little bit more about our academic program. I'd like to just talk about three things just to sort of start our discussion. What sort of makes our program distinct, the strength of teaching with a diversity of teaching styles, and how we support students in their academic journey. So some aspects of the academic program that are really distinctive to Andover are the breadth and depth of our courses. We offer over 300 courses from an introductory level to really second year college levels. Personalization in every class and the incredible diversity of students and teachers leads to a higher level of empathy and understanding in what you will learn. Finally, excellent teaching, as well as a deep curiosity and creativity of students in every class, encourages students to learn deeply as a habit and develop skills to excel in college and beyond. Diversity of teaching styles. We often hear the question, what do you teach? And it's a good question. And we believe a more important question is, what are students learning? And there's a difference between these two questions. Students learn in different ways, and so we teach with a variety of methods. Every day in every class, we see engagement in so many different ways. I teach biology, and we have discussions, debates, we play games, we conduct labs, we use the makerspace. We also have guest speakers, including other teachers and alumni who are Zooming in this year. Students make public presentations with peers from other classes. I could go on and on. The variety makes teaching, and I believe learning, more engaging, meaningful, and fun. We don't believe, as some others do, that there is only one predominant way of teaching and learning. I forgot to mention, I coach football. And just as in class, there are many ways to teach a student the skills and attitudes they need in order to succeed. Our method, by the way, has worked pretty well over the past several years, and especially with our rivals to the north. One last thing I want to say about academic advising. Students go through our program with a lot of guidance. Advisors know students really well. It's a close relationship that includes continuing discussions about interests. We partner with parents and our amazing college counseling office to discuss short and long-term goals. I always find it amazing with my advisees that some often think they have a really specific plan, a path, but then their interests evolve and change over time. And beyond advisors, our students develop strong relationships with other faculty, house counselors, coaches, teachers in their favorite course. And we talk about program and possibilities with students. I want to also add, in terms of support for kids through their program, our students really support each other. We have such a diversity of students with unique interests and paths that lead them to Andover, and that they will leave from Andover. And all of our students benefit in terms of how they think about their courses and even what they seek in education beyond Andover. So I'll stop there. And I know that there are a lot of really good questions coming in, so I'm gonna pass it back to Jill.
Great. Thank you so much, Raj. I always enjoy hearing you speak, and apologies for my surprise visit from one of my actual children. I have 44 kids in the dorm who are in a rival quarantine. I was so delighted to fill the storm just the other day. And then my own children, you always have to draw that distinction when you work at a boarding school. So my apologies. But we are so excited to get to as many of your questions as we can. There are some that we tend to get at this time of year. So we're going to start with those and then we'll turn it over to your questions. So the first one is for you, Elizabeth. We often get the question, is it possible to take multiple languages at the same time while you are a student at Andover? I'm wondering if you can speak to that a little bit. Well,
I love that that's a common question. That makes me really happy. It's not, I think it's almost impossible in the 9th grade. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But after that, it is possible to take more than one language. In the 9th grade year, a student would work with his or her advisee about how to make that happen, but it's students regularly will do that. In the meantime, in the 9th grade year, I often hear from students who are trying to figure out which of 2 languages to take. And it's not just in the classroom that students can learn and practice languages here. So we have, each language has a club, and anybody is welcome to join that club and practice and engage in all the activities and practice speaking, whether or not the student is taking that particular language in the classroom. We also have language tables, which are very welcoming once a week in Commons. There will be there's a sponsored dessert and a special room actually where there are language tables. So a student who is trying to decide between Chinese and ancient Greek, let's say, may decide to take ancient Greek in the classroom, but then join the Chinese club and eat at the Chinese language table to practice skills. Or so there are a lot of opportunities other than the classroom. But as far as actually taking classes, I think it would have to wait till after 9th grade year.
Great. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Sure.
Another question that we often get, this one's for you, Matt, Lisa, is, can anybody take computer science, or do you have to wait to a certain point, or do you have to qualify in some way for the computer science classes? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Well, we have a course called Comp Sci 350. That's an introductory computer science course. You need no background in computer science, and there's no math prerequisite. So any student can take that course. We also have computer science 470. Again, no prior experience with computer science is required in that course, but there is a math prerequisite. But I think it's math. Off the top of my head, either 320 or 330. So right around the algebra 2 level, because it involves a little bit of discrete mathematics. We do have students who come in and have had prior computer science experience, 9th graders who go right into our AP computer science course, our computer science 500 courses. And they're, again, you don't have to show. I think sometimes you'll have a conversation with a member of our computer science department. Maybe you'll show them a little bit of work you've done, and you talk to them a little bit about your experience. And together we'll determine, okay, this is the right course for you. But again, older students often can walk right into, without any prior computer science experience, take AP computer science. And then beyond that, we have our computer science 600 level courses. We have some electives that we offer that you can check out in our course of study, as well as, similar to history, we have independent study. But as an independent study, you're signing up as a group in a course, but you're pursuing your own individual study project. But we do believe being together with other students, sharing ideas, feeding off of one another, there's a tremendous amount of benefit to that, as opposed to solely working on your own with a faculty advisor.
Great. So helpful. Thank you, Matt. And since you brought up placement in courses, Raj, I'm going to turn this over to you. I know that a few of our panelists here mentioned a little bit about placement in courses and how that's done in different departments. Would you be willing to just give a little bit of an overview of how we approach that with new students? And also, occasionally we'll have students who might be repeating a grade. Does that look any different for students who are repeating a grade as they enter, or is it largely the same for those kids?
Yeah, thanks, Jill. So a couple of things about placements. First of all, we're so proud that our incoming class has had a variety of schooling experiences before coming to Andover. That diversity in each classroom is what makes, again, our academic program distinct and particularly excellent. And of course, we want each student to be appropriately challenged in all of our courses. So as they start their journey at Andover, we really pay attention to new students and their transition. their transition in the classroom, their transition outside of the classroom. Of course, their transition impacts how they do academically as well. Just as Matt and Elizabeth have said, students placed in math and language are placed based on prior experience. Carefully designed placement tests before starting at Andover. As Keith noted, science placements based on math level and prior science background. English and history, we have a random mixed group of students. In the 9th grade English, we don't grade on our normal grading scale in the fall term. This is intentional. It's pass-fail with a clear emphasis on giving feedback to students, especially around their reading and writing skills. I also want to note in the arts, students are also placed randomly into introduction courses unless they have an exceptional background in arts, music, or theater. There's flexibility, as Matt noted, also in which level you're going to be placed at the start of the term so that you're challenged appropriately. For students who are repeating, and specifically the 9th grade, we go through the same. We go through the same placement process, and we'll take a look, at what they've done and where they're placed. We have found that our repeating 9th grade students really feel good about their placements when they're here. Their placements academically and also really socially in being placed with other 9th graders to develop that type of camaraderie.
Great. Thank you so much, Raj. That was really helpful. Next, I'm going to go to my friend Sean over there. Sean, we've had a number of questions come in about AP courses, and anybody can jump in on this question, but I thought I would start with you, Sean, because you're working with kids in their transition to college, obviously. And I'm wondering if you could just speak a little bit about AP courses that students may take at Andover, AP exams, and then potentially what that looks like also when they land at college.
Sure, happy to do that. So just so folks know, if you're not aware, AP courses or advanced placement courses are taught. Andover actually only, and Raj, you can correct me, but I believe we only technically have 4, maybe it's 5 AP courses that we teach specifically. But we have many of our students will take AP exams. So we are, again, really lucky to have a director of testing. And we actually give, in a given year, we probably have close to 900 exams that we give. AP exams are taken in May. Some of you may know that the process has changed after COVID last year. They went online and a 3-hour test became a 1-hour test. This year, there's going to be the option of taking them in person or online, but they're going to be back to 3 hours again. Andover students in general do very well on AP exams, although it does typically take, outside of our AP courses that we teach, you typically need to do extra work to prepare for those and be ready for them. But our students tend to do very well on AP exams. And also, I think sometimes it's misunderstood. AP exams are actually were created for students once they matriculate at a college. They are used to give placement or maybe credit at a college or a university. And aren't typically required in an admissions process. Now, there are students who will use those and put those forward. But again, most colleges are going to specifically use AP exams once a student matriculates. So anyways, but we have a great director of testing. She does a great job of organizing it. And we literally give, in fact, we probably are going to give, I don't have the exact number, but we're probably going to have somewhere on the order of 20 to 24 tests we're giving this year at least. So we try to accommodate as many folks as we can.
Great, thank you. And Raj, did you want to add a little something there? And then I'm going to come to you, Matt, Lisa, because I know we have a number of kids taking AP exams in math.
Yeah, I just want to add that we're in a really fortunate position where we don't need an external test to be able to validate the program that we have. And the colleges and universities our students go to understand our program very well. We have fantastic relationships. And so they base their evaluations of students mostly on how they, what their journey is like in our program without an external validation. And we feel really fortunate about that. And that impacts our teaching And that gives us a type of freedom and flexibility to teach. At the same time, our students will take AP tests and do very, very well and place into very high levels, beyond sort of introductory levels in college.
Great. And Matt, did you want to finish out that question for us?
Yeah, so I think the 4 courses that are official AP designated courses in our course of study are Advanced Placement AB Calculus, BC Calculus, Statistics, and Computer Science. I don't know if there are more at the school, but I know those are the ones in our department. And we talk about this quite a bit. And I think Raj's comment about flexibility and freedom is the question that we're always asking ourselves in those courses. I think we feel like we can align ourselves with the AP. We really believe in the curriculum that they've developed and their learning goals, and a lot of the content. We use a lot of their content, but we're not teaching to a test. Students who take our courses will be ready to take that test. We feel like we have time to review for that test. I was actually just talking to my calculus class today about that and saying, I really like coming back at the end of the course, having students take another look through, pulling together ideas from throughout the year. And I see a lot of light bulbs turn on and aha moments where kids are like, wow, I understand that now. They ask students to write on many of these exams, but we also do go above and beyond in our courses as well. So,
great.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Matt. And we're going to switch gears a little bit. I wanted to come back to Steph Kirchy from our English department to ask a little bit more about the electives. I know you talked a little bit about how seniors take all electives, some uppers will take electives, or 11th graders. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do kids find electives? What does that all look like for the students?
Sure. Well, tomorrow morning I'll teach my first class of the spring, which is a graphic novel elective, comics, which I'm really looking forward to. We offer around 25 electives per term. And while these are designed for seniors, uppers who've already completed their first, uppers or 11th graders, who've completed their first term of their 11th grade year are eligible to ask me and their advisor if it makes sense for them to try an elective as well. The demand, the workload is harder. They're in a seminar style discussion with other seniors. They tend to be very focused in their subject matter. So it could be one author. For instance, we have a James Joyce elective, we have an Austen elective. It could be something around cultural studies. We have Asian American literature and film. It could be a genre elective. We have a new horror elective. We have interdisciplinary electives. I teach one on the history and literature of the Haitian Revolution. We also have, we always have a writer in residence. So we have a creative writing program that offers poetry and fiction every term. And a number of our colleagues are also writers in their own right. And we've are hoping to offer an elective for younger students in creative writing in years to come as we can make that work. But it is sort of the centerpiece of our program, and it's something students really look forward to. We even have students trying to take multiple electives at the same time. The course of study shares all the things we have, and it's something kids get really excited about before they come in.
Great. Can I ask one follow-up question? Sorry, may I ask one follow-up question, Ms. Kirchy? There we go. The question is, we have some students who indicate in the application process that they love to write, and you talked a little bit about how you can do that through the curriculum, but I know there are also ways that students can pursue creative writing, journalism outside of the English curriculum. I'm wondering if you can just touch on that a little bit.
Yes, so we have, there's some writing clubs on campus, and recently some students have created amazing full day writing workshops where they've brought in local authors who've run workshops for the students, and the students have also run them for each other. It's been really neat to see. We also have, this place can feel like a college campus sometimes. We have a number of celebrated authors who come and do sort of master classes in our classrooms with our students. And that's something, we have scholars who come and do that kind of work across the disciplines, but we bring quite a few to campus. There is a literary magazine called The Courant that involves both prose, poetry, and some photography and art. There's also the Philippian, which is an amazing weekly newspaper. And students also create clubs and literary magazines of their own. So they sort of come and go depending on what kids are excited about bringing to campus.
Great. Thank you so much. That was really helpful. Mr. Mundra, coming to you, there have been a number of questions that have come in about our daily schedule, which obviously looks a little bit different this year in COVID times than it did before and will next year. I'm wondering if you can speak to that a little bit to help our participants understand what a day in the life of an Andover student looks like during the class day.
Sure. I think it probably makes sense to think about what our schedule will be like next year. As you know, as we hope students listening to this will sort of join our community next year. So, and the schedule next year will be similar to the schedule that we had last year. And so our day starts at 8:30 and our academic day and goes to 3 o'clock. Each class will meet 3 times a week. There will be 2 meetings that are 75 minutes and 1 meeting that is 40 minutes. The 40-minute meeting will happen on Mondays, where students will meet with each of their classes. And then Tuesday through Friday, they would meet with their class on 2 of those days for those 75-minute periods. So that, you know, there's 7 periods. Most students will take 5 courses. And so they could have another period, sort of an extended period that they might use for lunch. They would have another period that might be a sleep-in, but usually is time for students in the library to sort of catch up on work. I will say, as Jim Ventre noted, it's a rigorous program. And so, you know, there's significant time in class, but there's a significant amount of time that kids are spending outside of class preparing. And teachers are available, kids are working with each other. There are a lot of collaborative projects. There's a lot of research happening. And so it's, you know, it's a full day. Within our schedule, I will also add that twice a week, there is conference period where all teachers are going to be available for one-on-one or group sort of extra help. And we also have advising period built within our schedule as well. So that again is a specific time for advisors to connect with their group. Last thing is every week we will have an all-school meeting. And that's a really nice time for the entire community to gather in our chapel. And we have an extraordinary sort of set of speakers and performances in-house from outside that, you know, generally just uplift the community.
Great, thank you. That was so helpful, Raj, thank you. Maricela, Dr. Ramos, there's been a few questions that have come in about what happens if a student is struggling a little bit academically, if they need support. What does that look like? Where do they go? Who do they turn to? Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Of course. So any student, can they hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. So any student who is struggling, one thing that's really important to know is that you have a full team behind you. And that includes all of your instructors, but also your coaches, your advisor, your dorm team. And so people are always looking out for you. The first step I would say is talk to your instructor. And they might have very just practical advice in terms of how to keep up with the work, or what are some tools that you can use in that particular class. You could always talk to your advisor, and they might also have a better strategy. But we have an excellent academic skills center, and that center, which I'm working with this year, is doing an excellent job in terms of trying to figure out, okay, what are your specific concerns? What are your specific issues? And so we try to address them. And so that ranges from test anxiety, It ranges from trying to work through a biology exam to how do I write a 5-page history paper, even scheduling. So having trouble with managing your schedule. How do we get you on track? So there's really a lot of options. And if at any point you don't know who to turn to, your advisor is always the main person that you can turn to, and they can guide you. We do also have study hours or study sessions, and the English has a writing center that I always encourage all my students to go to. There is also math and science have different ones as well, and they go throughout the week. There are also peer tutors. So depending on your situation, you could ask for a peer tutor. And so there's just a variety of ways that we would help you make sure that you are on track and that you are feeling comfortable about how you're doing in your class.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Ramos. Mr. Robinson, K-Rob, could you talk a little bit, sometimes he goes by K-Rob with our students, about the Math and Science Studies Center in particular? I know Dr. Ramos mentioned some of the supports on campus. I was curious if you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So both math and science offer a study hall in the evenings, and they are staffed by the faculty and some excellent peer tutors who are have sort of worked over the years as peer tutors one-on-one, and they get pulled in, and their job is to help students that have questions. So it gets used in a variety of different ways. We have students that come in that maybe just want to sit and do their homework. In a nice place that if a question pops up, they can do that. We'll have students sometimes come in with some particular questions or misunderstandings that they have had from class the day before, or going into a quiz or a test or something. And it's a chance in the evening during study hours for them to get sort of individual help and group help to go over concepts, practice problems, things that might help further understand.
Great, so helpful. Elizabeth, we have a lot of students who come here and they want to try something new. They hear, at Andover, it's pretty common to try something new. And in fact, it's kind of a part of our culture to actually give something a shot that you've never heard of before, that you never tried before. One of those things tends to be languages. So there aren't many kids who come to us who've had Russian or Japanese in their previous school. And so we often get asked the question, can I try that, from scratch? Do I need to have experience? I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how kids maybe are a little bit adventurous in our language program.
I'm glad you asked that, because actually after I was done introducing myself, I wished I had brought this up. We really encourage students to try something. And even we say, if you decide to continue studying a language that you have already studied, please try something else brand new, because you're here at Phillips Academy. But in order to encourage, and I did see in the chat, let me just, this is related. If a student enters the school as an 11th grader, in other words, doesn't have time to get through the 300 level, that's absolutely fine. They can just get as close as they can get. So in other words, if a new 11th grader comes, let's say that new 11th grader has had a lot of Spanish, do they need to take Spanish in order to try to get through the 300 level? No, not at all. They can take just 6 terms of a brand new language. So it's all outlined in the course of study, and advisors can help with that. But I should have said that the 300 level is for 4 and 3-year students. Okay, so yes, and we have something, this is going to sound really complicated, but it isn't. It's called the 2+1 language path. So, and we designed it in order to encourage students to try something completely new. So a student who comes in who has had Spanish in middle school, for instance, might be really tempted to continue Spanish in order to get the requirement done earlier. But if that student tries to take something completely new, and it would have to be a less commonly taught language. And the less commonly taught languages are basically all the languages we teach except for French and Latin and Spanish. Okay, so Chinese, Japanese, German, Russian, Ancient Greek. So try that out. And if after a year or even 2 years, the student decides that's not for them, it's not working out, then they can they can just add one more year. So if a student has taken two, in other words, you can combine 1 year and 2 years of a less common, as long as one of the, at least one is a less commonly taught language, you can combine your 300 level by getting through a 200 level and a 100 level, as long as one of them is a less commonly taught language. Does that make sense? Did I explain that?
Totally. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Very
Yeah,
helpful. I was in a very fun Russian sample class last night. All of our admitted students have been invited to try out some of the languages. And I was amazed by how well they were doing with no experience in Russian before. So you truly don't need to have any experience in order to
That's
sign up for something.
absolutely true. Yeah, and you would be amazed. And Russian, so I'm glad you got to go to that class. And there are going to be other sample classes of other languages available for students to take. But you would give it a try, because you might really be surprised at how well you do. Our teachers are very, very skilled in teaching language in the target language.
Thank you so much. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Raj.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Jill, you could speak as a language teacher because you were a language teacher here. And so I think that that's one of the great things, is our teachers work in so many different areas of the school and know our program really well.
In fact, Mr. Mundra, the way that I met Mr. Dignard, who's sort of legendary in our office, is because he was first my student in my French class many, many years ago. And he was a very good French student. I know he's very famous with many of our admitted students, so I thought I would mention that. You can ask him about it. Okay, Mr. Mundra, I'm going to zoom out, stay right with you here. And I would love it if you could, we have just a couple of minutes left. So I want to get to some kind of big picture questions for our participants here. So I would love it if you might be willing to talk a little bit about some characteristics that you notice in students who do really well academically at Andover. Sort of what does that look like? We have all these admitted students who are excited, and sometimes they think, did they make a mistake? And we don't make mistakes. You are here for a reason. You've all been admitted because we were very careful in this process. You should be here, but they wonder, am I going to be able to be successful in an Andover classroom? So I'm wondering if you could just speak to that a little bit, Raj.
Sure. I think there are two predominant characteristics, I would say, and then I could talk about a few others. One is a level of curiosity and a real desire to want to learn. And the other is a level of creativity as well, and sort of thinking and processing in different ways, making connections, unusual connections. But beyond that, our most successful students enjoy asking questions. They enjoy collaborating. They make connections between what's being taught and their personal experience. They own it. They ask for help from teachers and from peers. And for many, this might be kind of new because they've done really well, previously. And here I will guarantee that every student will struggle and will need to ask for help at some time. I think, when solving problems, when writing papers, students who do well like to imagine, they like to think expansively. They have fun learning. And I guess I would also say what's distinctive about an Andover kid is that they care about social justice issues and look forward to how they can use their knowledge to do good in the world, to challenge intolerance and injustice, and really follow our values to lead a life of non-sibby. Those are all things that our students, we hope, will move towards. And it's not necessarily easy. And we have a deep belief in every child who comes to the school. And so you are admitted because we believe in you and your journey to sort of get there.
Great. And I think we might have a couple others who would love to add a little bit on to that. Steph, I'm going to start with you, and then Elizabeth, I'll come to you afterward.
I would just add that I think our students often learn as much from each other as they do from us. And it's really important to think about all the different perspectives and experiences that each student brings into the classroom and realize how valuable they are. And how much we really try to work on discussion-based classes where students are learning from each other. So sometimes we get asked, what can I do to prepare for Andover next year? I want to be ready. And actually, the best thing you can do is to read. Well, you should always be reading. Of course, I'm going to say that, but you should be reading about, people whose experiences are different from your own, because that's what you're going to encounter. And that's what you should be curious about and sort of delighting in. And so, be excited about that, be curious about that, but also be humble about that. And just be prepared to come and know that the challenge you thought you were going to get here may not be the challenge you get. You may think that you're coming here to take the hardest science class, but actually the challenge for you is going to be listening truly deeply to another human being in a small seminar classroom. The challenge may be for you to, own your voice in a classroom, that it's not about, figuring out a language, or it's not about figuring out how to write your paper. So I would emphasize those two pieces.
Great, really helpful. Elizabeth, you wanted to share something as well.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow, Stephanie, though. I was going to say an embrace of the unpredictable, I think, is also really important. I know that when students get stressed out about their studies, they want to know exactly what they have to do. And, it can be tempting for them to fall into, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And they may find at Phillips Academy that they're going to be making connections on their own, right? And that they should really embrace that. And Raj talked about the flexibility of our curriculum, and whatever. I teach Latin and ancient Greek, and I don't think we've mentioned the Addison yet, but we have wonderful artists at the Addison who came to speak to our class about her experiences as an Iranian American, and there's so many connections to be made all the time. My students came back, we had our first day of an advanced Latin class, and we changed up the curriculum to read some Ovid in order to make connections to the fetishization of Asian females, that talk about, the horrific hate crime that just occurred, and make connections there. We're going to be making a lot of connections, and, please be open to seeing connections everywhere around you.
I actually think that applies to faculty members as well. I think one of the reasons that I love working here, and I'm sure you do as well, is because there is so much to embrace and so much to try and so much to do. We really never rest on our laurels in this community. That's our students, our faculty. We're really open to new experiences, and they're everywhere for us, which is really exciting.
Absolutely.
Mr. Logan.
You know that other students are going to be that way too. You're going to be that way together. It's going to be a wonderful experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Logan, you wanted to add something. Can I actually task you with one more thing too, which is just to say one more word about advising? It sounds like we're getting some questions about that. So as you share a little bit with us, could you touch on that a little bit as well?
Sure, happy to. Let me do advising and then go from there. I think we've hit on a little bit tonight. There are multiple ways that students are advised here. And I think one of the things to realize, and we talk about this consistently at Andover, is you're never alone. So as an adult, we always talk to adults about you're never alone. There's always people you're going to turn to help you with our students and their issues. And we say the same thing to students. You should never be alone with things. You should always be able to come to people. You will have a point person who is your direct advisor, and we try to keep those groups small, somewhere between 6 and 8 students typically. We will meet during COVID times this year. We've adjusted that a little bit. I have 8 advisees that I work with. I meet with them once a week in a group setting, and then I also meet with them individually once a week. Usually in the fall, it was more like a half an hour. Now it's maybe between 20 minutes and half an hour. So I have multiple touch points with my advisees every week. We will also have an opportunity, as I think someone on our panel already mentioned, we also work in teams. So our advisors know who the teachers are, who the dorm people are, who the coaches are. So if we're starting to see patterns, somebody might say, hey, so-and-so seemed a little down today. Their work was a little bit off. it's gone a couple of days with me. Anybody else seeing this? And this is all done electronically, just to kind of make sure we can kind of make sure we're staying on top of all of our students. And even though we are a large school, 1,150-ish students, we can bring this down to a very small number and have a lot of sort of eyes on individuals. So I feel very good about the amount of time and energy we can give students, and again, use the collective knowledge of the campus. So I might ask Matt, Lisa, hey, my advisee has this question about math. Could you, I can get a quick answer from Matt, get back to my advisee, and so forth. So we use this system quite a bit. And I think, again, it allows us to be a larger school, but it make it smaller and make sure that students have eyes on them and touch points across our curriculum. So, and the one point I wanted to make, and I know we're getting towards the end, in a past life, I did college admissions for about 18 years. And so I've probably visited both domestically and internationally, 400 plus high schools in my life. And the reason I ended up choosing Andover, I think is because of the uniqueness of our Andover community. Most high school students go to school in settings that are homogeneous. That's very sort of consistent. The uniqueness of Andover, there are a lot of really good academic institutions. I visited lots of them across the country and across the world. I can tell you a couple of public schools in the Bay Area that have higher average SAT scores than Andover does. There's a lot of terrific academic places. Andover is one of them. But I think the uniqueness is we take our really terrific academics and we wrap it in this community of 1,150 students from around the globe with different backgrounds, ethnicity, race, class, gender, all these different types of diversity, along with a faculty which is very diverse, along with the resources that Andover brings to bear we've mentioned the Addison, which is one of our museums, and multiple other things. We have an observatory, we have an archaeological museum, we have lots of different resources. It's a truly unique environment. And I think that's the piece for me. When students say to me, what do I need to do from a college perspective, about college, I turn it right back to, don't overlook Andover. This is a unique, amazing place. And I think very unique in the world from my experience. If you focus and do a good job here, and just what everyone was saying, try new things, follow your passions, you're going to look really unique to a college. But that's secondary to me. I think if you focus on Andover and what's coming and what you can take advantage of, I think this is a really unique place that way. It's one of the reasons why I really enjoy working here.
Great. I think that's a really great note to end on with the panel, though I suspect we could probably all go on talking for several hours more. You can probably sense, I'm sure our participants can sense the enthusiasm and the passion with which our faculty engage in this job, in this work, in this community with our students each and every day. So hopefully that was really evident to you. But for now, I know we're over time. I apologize, Mr. Ventre, but I'm going to hand it back to you to close
All
us
right,
out.
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. During these uncertain times, we know we're all stretching our capacity for resilience, and we understand that finding the right balance between living in the present and thinking about your future can be challenging for you. Please continue to stay current with the rollout of our virtual admission events on our website, and know that we will continue to offer robust virtual programming. We regret that we will not be able to invite visitors or newly admitted students and their parents or guardians to visit our campus until you actually come to school on opening day, which is on Tuesday, September 7th, which is when you will meet your advisor, by the way. We understand that this means that admitted students will have to choose whether or not to enroll at Andover without the benefit of visiting campus. While this news is certainly disappointing, we appreciate your understanding. Offering your best effort, being kind to others, and living your life on campus with the inspiration that you have something to contribute to our community is how you will commemorate your experience at Andover. We have made our decision to admit you, and it is our sincere hope that you will affirm your decision to come to Phillips Academy. Please trust your inner source of feelings and allow your instinct and your intuition to give you balance and guidance and thoughtfulness. You have distinguished yourself in a very important manner, and we want you to slow down and take notice of your achievement. Here's my advice for all you need to do to make the most of your educational journey. These are all the things we know you have done or that you can do. Be open, be a good listener, be committed, be truthful, be humble, be resilient, be a good friend, be optimistic, and be an active participant in this academic and multicultural community. We hope you will be all these things, for you are the next generation of students at Phillips Academy. We hope you will slow down and change your course now and then and join us. Congratulations again on your admission to the 244th entering class of Phillips Academy. Please join me in thanking our faculty colleagues and the members of Team Schumann who helped produce our program. We remain your everlasting humble servants in the pursuit of excellence. Thank you for joining us. Let's go Big Blue.